B-roll camera's rolling. Oh, there's some sexy watches down there.
Oh, yeah.
Some good-looking watches down there. Hi, guys. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Adam.
And this is Clock,
Stock,
and Barrel, where we deliver a consumer's opinion on everything watch-related. So, guys, we have two heavy hitters in today for comparison. And now I know what you're going to say. They're completely different watches. Shame on you. They're not. They're icons. To watch collectors like us, they're very, very important pieces. We have the Rolex Submariner and the Omega Speedmaster. Now, these are both a part of Adam's collection. We've talked about...
Never did I think I'd just be a boring run-of-the-mill speedy sub owner, but you know what?
You know what's funny? I feel like a lot of people own both of these watches, but there's a big reason.
I'll explain why, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, the Rolex has been on Adam's want list for a long time, particularly the two-liner that you see here.
Yep, two-liner, no-date sub. So we kind of made this a little bit, we made this pretty fair. This is a 1991 sub, and we have a 1992 Speedmaster.
Both new vintage.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, this is a little... We could do a ceramic sub versus the Speedy, but, you know, I don't know. That's even more different because...
yeah, that's not really a fair comparison. But, guys, these are two watches that were being sold to the average consumer around the same time.
Yeah.
And it was a choice. It was a choice between two, in my opinion, sports watches.
Yeah.
So why don't we go through some of the basic specs? Yeah, I'll hold
grab the subby.
I'll hold the subby.
I'll hold on to my beloved... Speedy.
And guys, I'll also give you a sort of a first impression because we haven't really talked about the Submariner on the show. This is just something that was seen in an unboxing. But I'll give you my opinion. He mentioned earlier how in his Explorer episode how he kept it over at GMT. But that's a lifer. You know, that's a lifer. So I love the Explorer, and I'd love to give you my opinions on the sub as well. So
yeah. So Speedy versus sub. Two very different watches. Obviously, the Speedmaster is a chronograph, and the Rolex is a diver, watch. Right? So this is a 50-meter water resistance, which is pretty much nothing. Yeah. Right.
And then we have, what is this? 200,
and then
300?
that should be. I think the sub. Oh God, what is it? Yeah, 300 meters. Yeah, the sub is a 300-meter water resistant diver.
It's also 5 Atmos.
Both extremely iconic in their own ways, right? Obviously, all the NASA ties with the Speedmaster, and then just overall military ties to world leaders with the Submariner and Rolex in general.
Icons all around wearing the Submariner. This is a very significantly important watch, not only for its dive heritage, but just based off the fact that in modern day and in pop culture, everyone knows the name Rolex, and everyone knows Submariner. Even my girlfriend knows what a Rolex Submariner is. It's a household name. And just this year, I believe they made it on the second time in a row on the Forbes Top 100 businesses.
Number one, yeah, most reputable businesses.
Yeah.
So
it's not a hard choice going with Rolex, obviously, for a lot of people because it's a dependable watch company.
Right.
Let alone watch just designer. It's just like these by themselves are phenomenal watches. But we're going to get into some of the specs here. Obviously, the case sizes are different, the movements are different. But the most important part to note is that these were made within the same time frame, and that. Right. They're not necessarily the same price.
Yeah.
They're both important sports watch choices. So.
Right. So this is a typical sports chronograph, and there are clearly no pushers on the sub. The sub is obviously very, very plain. Both of them have no date. Biggest differences probably are the fact that the sub has a rotating bezel. And movement-wise, this has a manually wound caliber 861. Omega movement, and the sub has an automatic movement known as the Rolex Caliber 3000.
They're both in-house.
Both in-house. So the Speedmaster has basically, it hasn't evolved that much, right?
No.
It was
42 millimeter case.
42 millimeter case.
28 millimeter lug width, excuse me. And
20 millimeter, yep.
What's the case here? And the Rolex case is the Submariner at least has changed over time, but in the 90s.
A little bit, but it's always been a 40 millimeter case, 20 millimeter lugs, always been like that. So this movement, like I said, is the 861. They now use the 1861 in the current Speedmasters, which is pretty much the exact damn same thing.
And no aesthetic change. And important to note that the aesthetics of the new Moonwatch are identical.
Yeah, identical to they've remained unchanged for decades. And then obviously previous to the 861, it was Lemania 321 movement. Whereas the sub, there are different versions, different reference numbers. This is the no date 14060 sub, right? And they had the
very clean dial, guys.
And right around the same time was the 16610, which is the date version, which has the date window at 3 o'clock. And the magnifier of the Cyclops.
Right over here.
Right before, so this was introduced in 1990, the 14060. And I believe in, I want to say the late 90s, it switched over to the 14060M, which there was a slight change to the caliber. I think it changed from the caliber 3000 to the 3130, where they just used like a Breguet spring or something like that in the actual movement itself. So it's very, very subtle change to the movement, slightly more shock resistant, but for the most part, it's pretty much remained unchanged throughout the 90s. The 5513 came prior to this piece, which looks very, very similar aesthetically. And then it was later replaced after the 14060M by the new super case ceramic Submariner, right? Which is the 21460 and the 116610.
So this is new to me, this particular piece, like I said, and I'd love to offer my first impression. So these are two watches that pretty much everyone has heard of. I'd say the Submariner more so than the Speedmaster, and they're both hyped up a lot, and these both deserve the recognition and the hype. However, I was extremely impressed by the Speedmaster. Every aesthetic quality, mechanical quality, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's absolutely perfectly proportioned, and it has remained relatively unchanged aside from the movements. The Rolex Submariner has seen a few departures from its original design and a few aesthetic changes, and obviously caliber changes. I was not as impressed with the Submariner, and that could only be because I've seen so many watches similar in likeness, because of all the homages and copies and faux Lexes out there. It's sort of washed out the appeal for me, I'm sad to say. But you know, I haven't seen, I've seen plenty of Submariners before. I've never seen one of these two-liners, and it's a classic. It's definitely a classic, a new vintage, as we'd call it. But it was not as impressive, or did not sing to me as much as the Speedmaster, and that's really all I want to say. I'm not arguing any points about the watch or its movement, its capabilities. I'm sure it's perfect. I'm sure you could still go diving with this and it'd be fine. All I will say is that the Speedmaster edges out the Submariner for me a lot, and just overall appeal and living up to expectations. Because that guy, I want to buy a Speedmaster now just because of this watch. I don't feel like buying a Submariner now. I kind of feel like buying a Squale 1545. No. It's the thing is that there are options for this, I guess is what I'm saying. There aren't options for that.
Yeah.
There's nothing like a Speedmaster.
It's so unique.
You know, people argue that, you know, this is the watch you need to own. It's the one you need to know about. I don't feel that way. Not personally.
Right, I'll agree with you that, I mean, I love this this no date sub, right? It's been a grail of mine. I finally got it.
Got to get a no date
several weeks ago, right? Again, it had to be the no date two-liner.
Yeah.
For me, I love the clean dial. It kind of
buy a date just if you want to see the date.
Right. It reminds me also of the Mule subs, the 5513 and the 5517, and the double stamp preferences as well. Which is why I got the head only. I keep it on a NATO strap. It's a super versatile piece.
Yeah.
That you can have. You know, it looks great on leather. Questionable.
And we'll argue that. And we'll argue that in a second.
Looks amazing on a NATO. Looks like a true tool.
Looks at home
like
on a NATO.
You know, looks like a real military piece on a NATO strap. And then on the bracelet, of course, you know, you can't go wrong with the classic oyster bracelet, you know. But the same can be said about the Speedmaster. I have the bracelet for this, but I don't use the bracelet at all. I have it right now on this Chrome Excel leather strap, but it also looks equally good on a NATO.
And that's the thing, I have to say...
Two extremely versatile pieces, you know?
The Rolex Submariner doesn't fare as well on a leather strap for me. It's sort of just... It just gets washed in the tides. It's like, it's not an impressive piece on a leather strap, for me.
Yeah.
The Speedmaster looks like it was born for a leather strap.
Right.
Or a metal bracelet. And equally as nice on a NATO.
Right.
So a nylon strap, any nylon strap, Zulu, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
It looks phenomenal on all of them, and that's just really a testament to its design. I don't know
Yeah.
why, and you know, dress pieces should go on leather. I see people dress up Submariners all the time. I wasn't impressed with this guy on leather, and to me, I suppose it's because it's like that beautiful bezel, those beautiful edges on the ends of that bezel. It's a very gnarly looking watch. I'll just put it that way. It shouldn't really be dressed up for me. It's at home on a NATO, and it's certainly at home on a bracelet.
Yeah.
So this is the look for me on the Submariner. It's not as versatile, in my opinion, as the Speedy. It doesn't look at home on a leather strap. And,
Right.
And I'm sure you guys rock them on leather. It's perfectly cool. It just felt a little off when I saw it earlier. For the first time, I'm like, it just didn't seem right.
Yeah.
It didn't feel right. You couldn't go diving.
I like it on some of the leathers, but you know, that's just me personally. But also, what's really cool about the No Date Sub, I mean, this is the perfect tool watch in every way. It even has the drilled lugs, right? So you can just pop those lugs out and make strap changes a breeze. And you guys all know I'm a strap whore, so I swap them out on daily, pretty much, you know. So
that transition was easy.
Yeah. And I mean, it has the Rolex triple lock crown, which is really cool. When you unscrew the crown, you can see the gasket. I'll go ahead and do that for you guys right now.
And guys, and by the way, it seems like I'm bashing the Submariner, and I'll get to why at the end of this, but all the form and function of this watch is absolutely perfect. The crown action is amazing. Crown action is amazing.
You guys can go ahead and see the gasket that's part of the triple lock crown system. That's right underneath the crown there. That little rubber gasket. Yeah, but
and even though this is new vintage, that bezel action's great. I'm assuming HQ Milton.
Yeah, so I got this from HQ Milton, which is a great. If you guys are not going to buy any watches from there, just go to the website to see the watch port, because they have some incredible vintage Rolex pieces.
They do a very good job, like photographing their catalog.
And I got this actually for a really great deal. I want to disclose the price completely, obviously, since the market's always changing. But I will say for head only, it was just under $4,000. So
when he showed me that sold picture, I was stoked. Yeah, it was a very good deal.
So you know, while we're on the topic of price, a No Date Sub. So we're talking kind of more of the new vintage 90s pieces, right?
You can do
so you can do you'll find the old Speedy on a bracelet for right around maybe like $3,000, maybe a little under $3,000, and this Sub on a bracelet will be anywhere between $4,000 and $5,000 depending on condition, right? So there's a difference, but like if you have the $3,000 for the Speedy, but you really want the Sub, it's worth it to just save up an extra $1,000. You know what I mean, and find a used Sub. So, and in terms of value, they're both going to hold their value, right? Rolex may even rise a little bit more in value since it's new vintage, and the craze with vintage Rolex is absolutely ridiculous. So maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
So as a collector, if you're interested in making an investment, I think they're honestly both good investments.
Yeah,
on this
you won't lose money.
I think the Rolex is going to hold its value just a little bit more.
Yeah, it might even rise, you know, especially since this is kind of like the last purest Rolex, pre-ceramic, no date. Like, this is a true tool. Now Rolex has turned another cheek and gone a little bit more into like the luxury with the ceramic, the super case.
And
you know,
it's questionable. Like, a lot of people were wondering if that was a good move for them. I think it was solid. I think they needed to modernize.
Yeah, I agree.
What do they have? The Yacht Masters. They've got Milgauss. They've got the Datejust. They've got a really interesting catalog. Although I will say, for me, I'm not the biggest Rolex fan. Maybe I shouldn't disclose that. They all look very similar. And I get what they're doing. They're carrying that oyster case design to their entire product line, pretty much. But I get a little bored of it, if I'm being entirely honest. Whereas you look at Omega's catalog, and there's a great diversity, even within the same name, the Speedmaster line. There's a huge diversity of models and designs that keep me interested as a consumer. I hate to put it that way. Although I love the new Milgauss. I would love to own one. That's sort of a grail.
Yeah.
Even when the vintage Milgauss.
I love the Z Blue Milgauss for sure.
So for you though, do these icons live up to the hype?
Yes, I will say they do live up to the hype. And I know like some people are going to be seeing this. They're like, oh my God, a sub, like a Speedy, like so cliche. Could you get any more cliche than that? But that's what I always thought. Until you actually see one in person and own one. Mm-hmm. You have to like wear it on the wrist to understand the magic. And after owning both of these, especially the Speedy, I really understand why these are such classics, why these are held in such high esteem with collectors, vintage collectors, because they're just that good. The proportions are damn near perfect, for both of these pieces. Mm-hmm. Everything about them, the charm that they bring, the Hesselite crystal on the Speedy, the drilled lugs with the oyster case on the sub, like they're definitely classics. And if someone's like, oh, I don't want to own a sub because it's boring, or a Speedy seems a little too boring because everyone has one.
Yeah.
Once you own, that's what I used to think. Once you actually own one, you realize the magic in these pieces and why they're such icons.
And what gets me, and a lot of consumers, a lot of collectors, Adam included now, own both. And I own neither. I'm interested in one, definitely interested in one. I would love a Speedmaster now. I already said that. So far as this comparison is concerned, yes, they're going to live up to the mechanical qualities you expect. For me, not so much the hype. Now for you, if you were to own one of these two icons, because a lot of people own both, but if you said, I'm going to be a one-watch guy, which would you choose?
I would pick the Speedy.
And why is that?
It's just something about it. There's some kind of magic. I think it has to do with the aesthetics, like the multiple dimensions that you get between the case, the twisted lugs, the dial, those sub-dials recessed, the chronograph function, which adds a cool little aesthetic element to it. Even the history. I mean, they both have a super rich history, but the fact that this is a NASA qualified watch and has been for decades, that adds a bunch to it. And it's funny because I normally would pick a diver, a tool watch 9 times out of 10. But there's just something. I mean, this is still a tool, right? It's just not. It's not a dive watch. But there's something about this piece, this Speedmaster, that I don't know.
I think I know what's changing your opinion.
What is it?
And I don't mean to plug them like this, but I said this in a previous video too, where I'm rediscovering, because we did a Do You Need video on chronographs, but I'm rediscovering not only the importance of chronographs, but the function and the beauty of them as a tool. That I would rather spend top dollar on a chronograph than a diver, because there's a little Swiss company called Oris. I'm dead serious. If I were going to spend money on top dollar on one icon, I would pick the Speedmaster as well, because that I know that I can drop under $1,000 for one of the best dive watches in the market that will satisfy my needs, and that I would not be half as concerned about going out and venturing with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I would be, like, you're rocking an Oris Aquas today. This is the newest piece Adam got. And we were both just talking about it. People discuss the Marine Master 300 being the Submariner killer, but guys, the Aquas for me is kind of in that ballpark too. And I think that's why the allure of expensive divers has kind of gone down, because there's a certain point as collectors, I feel, where you collect mid-tier, you lower level, mid-tier, and then you go high-end, and a lot of... Because we stopped mid-tier with the divers. Like, you and I agreed, we're like, sub $1,000, there's nothing that's as appealing as an Oris diver. And then above that, it doesn't feel like you're getting much better. Whereas like that Speedmaster, I'm not going to find anything like that under $1,000. I
think that makes sense, because the fact is that this has a complication in it. And that is being a chronograph, right? Yeah. You can have maybe a GMT function or something like that might make something a little bit more worth it.
I love
from a watchmaking perspective. Like the fact that this is a watch, a tool watch that functions as a chronograph that can accurately measure time, with just some extra pushers. I think that's what kind of, there's a certain value proposition with this where you're getting a complication, or if you want to get a perpetual calendar or annual calendar, you're paying the premium to get, you know, something more than just a tool diver with no date. And don't get me wrong, like, this is such a classic icon, you know, with all its heritage and its pedigree, but there's just something about the Speedy, and I really understand now.
Yeah, I totally
what
agree.
it is about the Speedmaster that everyone loves.
People are like, oh, so many special editions, so many limited editions. Who cares? Omega's doing you guys a favor. You have options now.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? I mean, as a consumer, it's great. Like, when like, my kids, if they like watches, they're going to look back at, like, you know, when they go eBay shopping or whatever the service is, and they're looking back at all these, like, new vintage pieces, they're going to see an amazing array of Omegas.
Yeah.
And, you know, Omega's leaving a really great legacy behind, I feel, particularly with their Speedmasters. And I can see why there's such a love affair with the
and honestly, like, if let's say I won the lottery tomorrow and I could do anything I want with watches, right? I'd probably blow a lot of money on watches. I would probably become sort of like a Speedmaster collector if I had to pick one.
Not
line.
Daytonas?
No. No, seriously though, I would probably pick the Speedmaster over a Daytona or any Daytonas. Like, I'd much rather have an original, like, 2915 or 2998 back from the late 50s, or an Ed White over like a 6263 big red Daytona or something. That I
need to get a Daytona on the show now.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll change your opinion.
Yeah, maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
But no, I really love the Speedmaster that much. I don't know. I kind of fell in love with it recently. This hasn't been a thing where I've always wanted a moon watch. I've always wanted a Speedmaster, because I own a couple different reduced variants, like in date variants, and they were great. Yeah. But I mean, it's just not the same. The proportions, especially this 42 millimeters, just wears perfectly.
Don't get us wrong, though, guys.
Wrist,
if you have a smaller wrist, like, don't let that be a deterrent from a Speedy. But so far as these two icons are concerned, I think they're both wonderful watches. I think they're both beautiful. You'd be blessed and extremely grateful, I'm sure, to own either.
Yeah.
But the truth is, if I were to own either as well, I would probably go with the Speedmaster.
And I don't want to downplay this, because this is an awesome watch, and especially like on a NATO, this is going to be a great summer watch. You know. Mm-hmm. But I think you brought up a really good point about it just being
not to bring
a regular diver, you know?
Yeah.
Even though it is the diver, it's still kind of just a diver.
I think that's what killed it for me, though, because I'd seen Adam's new Oris Aquis, and that it sort of rung true to me, like, why don't I care about luxury divers as much? Is because there's a lot of really good divers on the market. I feel like brands are putting a lot of their money, they're investing in quality dive watches because they know that's what the market wants.
Definitely.
And then you get chronographs that just kill it, like the Omega Speedmaster.
And then you have options like, as we're talking about prices, if you get a new sub, we're talking like $7,000 plus, right?
Yeah.
Or you could get a Tudor Black Bay. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So someone might see that price difference too and be like, I'm not gonna get a sub if I can get a Tudor Black Bay, right? That's a completely different discussion, but it kind of plays to the do I really want to pay that much for a no date diver? Something that's so plain Jane sort of, even if it has that iconic status. And honestly, this is the Speedmaster is kind of plain Jane in a way, but maybe in pictures, but in person, there's so many elements to it that I think.
See, but this is like, so I like to say,
back here too,
I like to say vanilla when I'm referring to a watch. Now, in my opinion, these are both vanilla watches. They're watches that everyone wants because they're classics. But this is like vanilla ice cream, where this is vanilla ice cream where they introduced the bread to make an ice cream sandwich. This is like the ice cream sandwich classic, and this is like just vanilla ice cream. It has like extra detailing. It has just a little bit more allure to me. Yeah. As a watch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you noticed it too. You witnessed it. I mean, like, and of course it could just be. Well, you bought the Speedmaster before you got the Rolex. Am I correct?
Yes.
Interesting. And the Speedy's still on the wrist.
Yep.
Now, guys,
I still wear this a good bit, but
I would love to know if you guys own both watches. You let us know which one you find yourself wearing more, and which one you prefer. I mean, as icons, we don't always have the luxury of owning both. So please let us know in the comments down below why you own one over the other. If you own both, why you wear one over the other. I'd love to know. I'd love to find out.
You know why I also love this, I think, a little bit more? And I just
Speedy
kind of
talk,
realize
speedy talk.
this right now. Yeah. Speedy talk, but also manual wound talk.
Yeah.
The fact that I have to take this off, or before I put it on every morning, I need to wind it to give it that life. I think that kind of brings you a little bit closer to the watch.
There's a certain intimacy with hand wound watches.
Because you have to give it the attention that it needs every morning, or every night to kind of keep it running. As opposed to a sub, you can just, if you wear it every day, just grab it and go, and beat it or do whatever you want with it. You can also manually wind it if you want.
Your new beater.
My new beater, yeah. But I've found myself wearing this piece a lot, and I think in 2017, I think its most wrist time is going to be Aquis and the Speedy. To be honest,
it's just too darn comfortable.
Guys,
I'm sorry to bring up Oris. I know I bring up Oris a lot on this show. Oris, pay me. Oris, send us watches. If you guys work with Oris, let me know, because I would love to talk to an official representative of Oris and tour one of their factories. That would be fun, and I would love to bring that to you guys. Oris. Anyways, we're talking about the Speedy and the Rolex. Guys, thank you for joining us here today. I hope I didn't offend anyone. If I did, hit that dislike button. I
think we might get some dislikes here.
And that's totally cool. I get it. You know what? The Rolex, really cool. Dive watch. Important. I should feel more important, but I'm sorry, guys. As a consumer, and I think other consumers get it, it's just a watch at the end of the day, and it's just not my favorite. That's all I have to say. And if you agree with us on our opinions, feel free to hit that like button. That's why the like button's there. Kind of, I guess. That, or you just want to show your support in a very small way, and we appreciate that. I love getting a thumbs up. Makes me feel good, guys. When I wake up and I see a thumbs up there, it makes me feel good. If you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button. It's down here. We produce 2 episodes a week, so if you want to see more content like this, that is the best way to do so. And again, guys, please comment in the comment section down below. We love the conversations that are started with our little community, and as we build this channel, it's just fun to see. We love interacting with you guys and learning from you guys. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. I know it was a pretty controversial one, kind of. I know a lot of people are going to think these things.
Everyone's going to pick one or the other, so.
Yeah, or both. If you can pick up both, guys, I think you're doing right. Not only economically with your life, but you're doing the right thing, because you're both great watches.
Yep,
I'm just end with that. All right, guys, thank you for joining us on CSMB. We'll see you on the next one.
See you guys.